Hi there. When you first switch over to the color page in DaVinci Resolve, it can seem a bit overwhelming. There's a lot of controls, a lot of panels, things you can switch on, things you can switch off. But don't worry, in this video, I'm going to take you through all of the basics that you need to know in the color page so you can get acquainted with how everything fits together. To switch to the color page, either come up to the workspace menu and choose switch to page color, or click down here on the color icon. In the middle, we've got the view of the clip that we're currently grading, and you can use this playhead to scroll backwards and forwards and use these transport controls to play forwards, play backwards, and go to the previous clip or the next clip. We only have one clip in the timeline, so they're not going to do anything. And you can enable or disable this if you want loop playback. This bottom section groups together all of the color grading controls that we're going to use in maybe 80 or 90% of the cases, but we can also add custom effects which have their own control area. We'll come back to this bottom section later. Let's come up to the top and click on effects. Here's where you can scroll through all of the effects we can apply to clips. When you want to add an effect, you can't just drag it over this picture here, you need to add it to a node. To access the nodes, click here, and now we've got this nodes area. You can resize these things. I'm not going to go in depth onto nodes in this video. I'll be doing a future video going deep on the concept of nodes, so make sure you subscribe for that. Coming back to these effects, you can drag an effect over on top of this node and let go of the mouse button, and now the effects window changes here to the settings of this effect. These controls will look different depending on the effect that you have added. And to get back to the list of effects, click on Library. To close the effects, click the Effects button again. And to close the nodes, click on the Nodes button again. Click on Timeline to open up the timeline view. At the minute, we've only got one single clip which we can select. If I just head back to the Edit page and cut this clip in half and head back to the color page, now we've got two separate clips that we can click to activate, and we can color grade each of these clips differently. If you actually want to see thumbnails of the clip, click this button to turn on the clips view, and you can see the two clips because I just cut that one clip in half, and you can click on the clips to select them for color grading, and as I'm clicking on them, you can see down here in the timeline, it's selecting that clip in a red box. There's loads of ways to filter these clips by clicking this drop down arrow and choosing something from here. You don't need to worry about that for the minute. To close the clips, click on it again. We've also got the media pool, which is the same media pool that we can see in the edit page and the cut page. Typically, you don't spend a lot of time using the media pool in the color page. Click on it again to turn it off. Click on LUTs to open up a list of all of the LUTs that are currently installed on your computer, and you can go and apply these LUTs to your color grades. And the final thing at the top left here is this gallery. I'm going to click on that, and you can click here to open up the sidebar. The gallery lets you effectively take copies of color grades to use on other clips or to save for later. We don't really need to go into that here, but let's go and create a quick stills. Right click on the picture and choose grab still, and it appears in the stills section up here. And here I've got power grades, which you can share between projects. To close the gallery, click here again. Let's go and turn off the timeline to make a bit of extra space. And the final thing I want to show you here is this light box. Click on that, and it's going to fill the entire screen and show you all of the clips in the current timeline. This can be useful for checking the color grade across lots of different clips. Click on light box again to go back to the main view. All right, let's come back to that bottom section, and there's quite a lot to unpack here, so don't be worried if it feels a bit overwhelming. We don't really need to know about everything to get started with color grading in DaVinci Resolve. Let's start off at the bottom left. You can switch between these sections by clicking on these icons. Camera Raw lets you work with raw camera footage. Color Match allows you to use color matching cards to try and fix color problems. The primaries are a classic way of doing color grading in DaVinci Resolve. They allow you to change not only the colors, but also the exposure and the highlights and the shadows and the different bright and dark areas of the image. Within this primaries panel, we've got quite a lot of stuff that we can do, including changing the contrast of images, changing how the contrast pivot point works, changing the color temperature and tint if your white balance needs fixing, but there's other ways to do that, and changing the overall exposure of the image. If you want to reset any one of these controls, you can double click on the word next to the number to reset them back to their default values. Let's go and reset all of these. If you want to reset an individual section, the lift, gamma, gain, or offset section, click on this button and this will reset each of those individual things, even if you've changed the colors. And if you want to reset every single control within this primaries panel, click this button and it will reset all of the values inside that back to their default values. There are some extra things here. We can switch over to the color bars and we can switch over to the log wheels. But don't worry too much about any of these if you're just starting your color grading journey. Let's switch back from the log wheels to the primary color wheels. So you can see we've got sections within sections. We've got the main sections and we've got the subsections. Let's switch over now to the HDR palette or panel. As before, we've got these familiar looking wheels. These are a little bit different from the primaries wheels that we just saw. The HDR wheels have more of them. If you click here or click on these arrows, you can switch between them and they just scroll along the bottom as I'm moving between them, or you can click on the actual wheels. The HDR or High Dynamic Range palette allows you to target certain areas of the image in terms of brightness and tweak the brightness or the colors in those smaller areas of the image. And we've got subsections here. We're currently in this section, but we can switch over to the zones graph. This lets you alter where the different zones are in the HDR palette or where those different bands of brightness sit. We can switch back to the actual color wheels by clicking there. And if you click these three dots, you get access to more advanced options. Next up, we've got this main section. This is the RGB mixer. This allows you to change how the colors are all mixed together. You can reset individual sections for the red output, the green output and the blue output by clicking these reset buttons. Or if you want to reset all of the controls, you can click the familiar reset all button. Finally, we've got this section, and one of the main uses for this section is to apply noise reduction if you've got a lot of camera noise when you're editing the thing that was filmed. Again, there's subsections in here: temporal noise reduction, we've got spatial noise reduction, which includes the spatial threshold section, and also this motion blur section. As before, we've got the main reset button to reset all of the controls within this single palette. When you click these reset buttons, it's not going to reset everything within these other palettes. It's only going to reset the things that you can see here, or here, or here. When you're getting started with color grading, you're probably going to be using the primary color wheels. Okay, let's move on to this middle section. The middle section has a number of tools that we can use along the top. This first one that we're currently in, because it's lit up, are the curves. We've got the color slice tool, we've got the color warper tool, we've got the qualifier, we've got the ability to create windows. A power window is a way of restricting color grades to a certain area of the screen. We can track things as things are moving. We can use the magic mask to magically select things on screen. And we've also got these blur controls. We've got the key output, which can be used for various different things. We can change the sizing of things, how things sit, and reset those by clicking here. I'm going to be doing dedicated videos on all of these different sections, so make sure you subscribe for that. Let's dig into this curves control for a second, and as with some of the other palettes, we have subsections with these buttons here, and these just give us different ways to work with curves. For example, the hue versus hue curve allows us to add points in the image and change the colors of certain parts of the image. We've also got the overall curves, which work with brightness information. And to reset one of these subsections, let's take this one. You can click this reset button, but that hasn't changed these other sub parts. So you could click on here and reset that one if you want to, which gives you more control over what happens. Clicking this button opens up this curves window in a positionable window if you want to get really fine-grained control of what's happening, and just close it to pop it back down here. Again, I really don't want you to get overwhelmed with all of these things I'm showing you. Color grading is a skill that you learn over a period of time, and you won't need at least 50%, maybe 80% of everything you can do in your Resolve to get the job done for whatever project you're working on. So just start at the start and expand your knowledge over time. Let's move on to this final section. Currently, the keyframes are open. Keyframes allow you to change the value of color grading properties over time. That's more of an advanced thing, so don't worry about that for now. A more useful thing is to click on this button to open up the scopes. The scopes allow you to visualize the colors and the brightness information in your image. So as I'm changing the colors, you can see this particular scope is moving around, and there's loads of different scopes that we can choose from here to give us different views of the color and brightness information in the image. And as it's playing back, you can see these scopes actually change as well. If you do get confused about what things are open and you just get a bit overwhelmed, you can just come up to the workspace menu, come down here and choose Reset UI Layout, and that will reset all of these panels back to their default values as if you're just install DaVinci Resolve from scratch. So I've mentioned before that these primary color wheels are probably what you're going to be using to get started with color grading in DaVinci Resolve. Watch this video next to learn how to use these primary color wheels to start color grading your footage. I'm Jason Roberts, this is DaVinci Dojo, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye.